everyone, it's great to see you today. Today, instead of cooking, I'm going to talk to you about a little research I've done. And as the title says, why doesn't the Allergy Association recognize corn as a food allergen? Now, in my research, what I found was the answer to that question that they gave me, that was from a doctor. It said this is because corn protein is not a highly allergenic allergen, and reactions rarely occur in response to the very small amounts of allergen that are present in most foods. Now, this is from an article, which I'm going to share parts of, called Corn Allergy and Intolerance, and it's by Dr. Janice Joniha or something. I'm not sure how to pronounce it properly. And what she does is investigate whether it exists as a true allergy, and looks at the health problems that corn sensitivity can cause. And she writes that there's very few published reports of allergic reactions resulting from eating corn, and little evidence to suggest that corn is a food that is likely to trigger severe or anaphylactic reactions. Only a few studies have tried to identify corn allergens, and some allergens have questioned whether it exists at all. Now, that was the first point she brought up. The second point, in conclusion with that first point, she brings out that for the last 15 years, several investigators have looked more closely at corn allergy, especially in children, not adults, and found evidence that it may be more prevalent than previously thought. Most reactions tend to be mild, and not all people who have been sensitized to corn will develop symptoms when they eat it. In one reported study, now that was the second point she's bringing out, only 6 out of 16 children who were skin positive to corn and who had corn-specific IgE antibodies. There we are with the IgE antibodies again, and from everything I'm reading, they're connecting it basically with corn. It says that in the antibodies in their blood actually developed symptoms when they ate the corn. The clinical history and negative challenge results for the remaining children suggested they didn't suffer from corn allergy. Now it brings out that was the third point. The fourth point, she says that a 2012 study that was conducted in Milan suggests that some corn proteins, specifically the prolamines or zins in corn, contain amino acid sequences that resemble the gluten proteins in wheat so closely that eating corn could have a similarly damaging effect on some people with celiac disease, as these findings may be of paramount clinical relevance to some individuals with celiac disease as eating wheat. Forgive me, I skipped a sentence. Corn is used as an alternative, if you read your packages, to wheat in many gluten-free food products. That said, the findings from that test or study, they may be of paramount clinical relevance to some individuals with celiac disease, and the use of corn in the formulation and preparation of gluten-free foods may need to be reevaluated, because it's what I've said all along. I have always said corn is a grain. It is not a vegetable, although people link it with vegetables, but it is a grain, and it does have gluten, just as this brings out. And it brings out that another report in 2006, it suggested that the maza-related food allergy, which is corn, is more complex than so far anticipated. So it is hoped we may see more information becoming available on corn allergy as more clinicians and scientists become interested in it. So the real problem with not knowing much about corn allergy and not recognizing it as a major food allergen is there's no interest by the doctors. It's like they could care less. And she brings out that in the 2006 study of 9 participants who reacted to corn in a double-blind placebo-controlled food challenge had the following symptoms of arrhythmia, which is reddening or flushing, pruritus, which is itching, urticaria, which is hives, itching and blistering in the oral cavity, which is in your mouth and throat tightening, flares of atopic dermatitis, which is eczema, and abdominal pain. And she says that in another study, they reported 3 other symptoms, which were asthma, angioedema, which is tissue swelling, and rhinoconjunctivitis, which is hay fever-like symptoms. In 2008, of another study, they reported 48% of the 27 patients enrolled in the study reacted to corn in DBPCFC. If 2 or more symptoms occurred, the subject was deemed at risk for anaphylaxis. And it said exercise-induced anaphylaxis after consumption of corn had been reported. So it also says, which I believe this to be, I've always believed this, having had this allergy as long as I had, she brings out a point about delayed reactions. And she said, in addition to the immediate onset symptoms, delayed reactions to corn seem relatively common. These become evident when corn is eliminated from the diet and the symptoms resolve. These people will have tested negative in corn-specific IgE tests in skin and blood and will have failed to react to challenge tests designed to reveal immediate symptoms. However, when corn is challenged over a 2 to 4 day period, symptoms appear. And it said the pattern of the reactivity is very similar to that reported for cell-mediated allergy to wheat. Because the mechanism of reactivity is currently unknown, some practitioners refer to these delayed responses as corn intolerance rather than allergy. The symptoms reported in this type of delayed response to corn are diverse, and she has them written down here: headaches, migraine, fatigue, mood disturbances, joint and muscle pain, and upper respiratory symptoms. So these are things that I have been dealing with, my goodness, for the past almost 18 years. So it just goes to show they need to be doing more research. They need to be studying this a lot more. And I'm glad to see that she did this article, but this was done 6 years ago. So there's nothing new that I have really seen since. She brings out that often such symptoms are considered to be subjective and may be chronic in nature until an exclusion diet reveals the cause of the problem. The possibility of corn being a trigger for these types of symptoms is rarely considered. So there we go again. Oh, you can't be allergic to corn. I mean, I've had so many doctors tell me that, and then it's just ridiculous. You know, use your head. If you react to other foods and they recognize that as a food allergen, why would they not recognize corn if you're reacting in basically the same way? So it's a case of, she is saying here, the possibility of corn being a trigger for these types of symptoms is rarely considered, especially when the diagnosis is so difficult. And there are several reasons that it's so difficult. And she brings out that hopefully future research will reveal the mechanism responsible, and evidence-based research will lead to more individuals with corn allergies being correctly identified and helped in the future. And when I tell you the other information I found and the studies and what they were saying, it just blew me away. But she brings out in here, it is not uncommon for a person who is allergic to wheat and other cereal grains to also be allergic to corn. I'm not allergic myself to any other grains. I have no problems with them whatsoever, but I am allergic to corn. So, you know, I don't think that's true for everyone. Like I said, I don't have any problems with wheat or rice or barley or rye or anything, just the corn. And she brings out here that the individuals allergic to cereal grains need to avoid them, including gluten-containing grains and corn, to achieve remission. So the mechanism of the corn allergy, as she brought out, is that there's virtually no information on the allergic proteins in corn until about 10 years ago, when a research report identified the major corn allergens to be a protein, and she has in parentheses 9kD in size, that has the characteristics of a lipid transfer protein, and a 16kD protein that had potential to induce IgE antibodies. Now, she said this was until 10 years ago. They had no information. And it brings out that the LTPs are proteins in many foods that are often responsible for the most significant allergies. They are generally heat resistant, and their allergenic whatever is unaffected by cooking. They can also survive stomach acid and digestive enzymes, and thus trigger an immunological response when they encounter immune cells in the intestines. And another group found a 50-KD protein that was resistant to both heating and peptic pancreatic digestion, and was thought likely to be an important allergen in triggering corn allergy. Interestingly, the researchers who reported the existence of the 9kD corn allergen found that the corn LTP cross-reacts completely with LTPs in rice and peach, but not with those in wheat or barley. This is further evidence that foods in the same botanic family rarely cross-react, but proteins that are structurally identical in unrelated plants may trigger allergy in a person who is sensitized to only one of them. Now, this article, you can find it online, as I said. She says that the elimination of corn does not lead to nutritional deficiencies, basically because it doesn't do anything. It's mainly sugar. And it talks about, though, that we have to continue to look for alternative corn-free products, which is what I've been doing for years. And it says, she says here that in spite of the multitude of food products that contain corn, it is very rare to encounter anyone who experiences a severe allergic reaction in contact or after ingestion of most of them. This is because corn protein is not a highly allergenic allergen, and reactions rarely occur in response to very small amounts. Now, this is where they need to really be researching this more, because I can eat something that has a corn derivative in it. I can eat the first bite, and I had the allergist tell me this. He says, you could eat one bite and you'd be fine. But the more bites you take, the more your body starts to react. And I found that that is very true. I can get away with one bite maybe. 2 bites, my nose starts swelling shut. 3 bites and I can't breathe. So it's a case of they need to be doing more research and change that idea, because each person, as I have said over and over, we are all different. No 2 people are the same, and the way they react to the same food allergen is totally different. So this article here, you can find it. This was done in February 2015, and I got this from the site foodsmatter.com/allergy intolerance corn maza Jonah I can't pronounce her name, but you can look it up. It's a www.foodsmatter.com/allergy lower case line intolerance/corn/ or not slash but a line maza. I'll put the link down in the description for this particular one, and you can check her out and see what she has to say. Now, I found another article, which is very much shorter. Sorry it was so long. But this one is from a Dr. Arland Hill, and that's his site is drarlandhill.com/blog/corn -a-common-food-allergy/ So what he had to say, I was really interested in, because he is an allergist, and I think he's pretty interested in this, but he does recommend something which I don't know anything about, but it's something that I didn't really desire to do, is what he recommends in order to keep from having these allergy problems. Now, I'm going to do this article and then I'll stop for today. This is like a part 1, part 2, because I've got other information I want to share. But Dr. Arland Hill, what he says, associated delayed reactions and food allergies have become increasingly common. And he said that in his practice, he's seeing more patients enter the clinic with reactions to food that they commonly eat. The one question he seems to hear is, why am I just now reacting to these foods? My parents ate this food and they were fine. Well, this can be a source of frustration, as he brings out, and it's no wonder. It's just like me. I grew up in a corn state. You saw fields of field corn everywhere. We'd buy sweet corn or grow our own sweet corn and have that during the summer. So I was raised on that, and then it wasn't until almost 18 years ago that I decided to start reacting, and I don't know why. Still don't to this day. But anyway, he brings out about corn. There are many reasons for food allergies, especially to corn. Now he says especially to corn. And the first is the misconception, as I said earlier, that corn is a vegetable. We have all been told to eat our vegetables for years. In fact, I still tell my patients that the majority of their diet should be derived from plants. However, when it comes to corn, as the other doctor said, we are more accurately talking about a grain. We may think about it as being part of our garden, but the corn you are likely to grow in your garden is much different than what is grown in fields and mass produced. Now he tells us here that there are different types of corn. He says there's many varieties, and said that the corn grown and eaten a century ago is of the variety of sweet or flint. Another species of corn also exists. It's known as dent, and I know what that is because it's field corn. If you ever look at field corn and you strip back that husk, the kernels all have a little dent in them. And the field corn is used for feeding cattle, chickens, goats, pigs, whatever, and it's used to get derivatives from, okay? And that's why you see it growing in those fields. Well, he also says, he asks the question, why does he take time to differentiate between the two? Isn't all corn the same? Not at all. And the difference is, at least in part, why we are seeing more reactions to corn and now considering it a common food allergen. Here's the kicker, and it shocked me when I read it, but then knowing how Monsanto has been hybridizing or mutating, doing the genetic modification, it doesn't surprise me. But he says the title of his next paragraph is Corn Produces Its Own Pesticide. Now, when you think pesticide, you're thinking poison. And this is what I have said all along. Because of the genetic modification, they have changed it so drastically that it's like eating poison. And that's exactly what he says up here. Or not exactly, but it's referring to basically the same thing. Field corn as a species is genetically modified. Corn was originally hybridized to make it sweeter, and decades later, genetically modified to produce its own insecticide. Additionally, the genetic makeup of corn has been manipulated to allow production of the Bt toxin. It's a bacterial toxin. This toxin is often found in the soil. And he says, are you starting to get the picture? And he's exactly right, because you are eating a substance that in no way resembles what your forefathers ate. So what we ate growing up, what our families ate long before we were born, is not the same. And he's exactly right. And he says on top of that, it is producing its own toxins. From this point, he says, it is a slippery slope right into food allergies and the more common sensitivities. Corn is no longer a food substance. This is his point, but rather a science experiment perpetrated on the American public to determine the conclusion. The data is coming out. Now, this is his comment, and it doesn't look good for us. Now, what he recommends, that in general, he says he recommends you take no chances with consuming problematic strains of corn. All corn that is refined, fed to animals at feedlots, and used in production of corn-based products is genetically modified. If you wish to, now here's what he suggests. If you wish to avoid the ill effects of this food, you will need to move to a paleo diet. The paleo diet is known to aid the reduction of allergies, not just to corn, but to all common food allergies. If you must absolutely consume corn, make sure it is of the sweet or flint varieties, preferably organic. Now, for me, it doesn't matter whether it's sweet, flint or field corn. I can't consume any of it. Anytime my husband will buy sweet corn, like from a farmer's market or whatever, I can't even breathe when he's taking the husks off. He has to go outside has to shuck it. That's the word I was trying to think of from when I was a child. To shuck the corn, you know, to remove the husk and the silk. I can't even be around it because I can't breathe. And then when he's cooking it, I have to go outside or go into the garage where I'm at right now and shut the door while he's cooking it because I can't, it throws me into an asthma attack. So for me, it doesn't matter. It just depends on how severe your allergies are as to what level, you know, like he says, to get that kind, and you could probably eat it. I wouldn't even trust myself to do that. But he also says it should be preferably organic. As it stands, organic foods are not genetically modified, while most of the non-field corn is not genetically modified. Now here's what he says. The agricultural conglomerate Monsanto has started working their way into these species as well. So they are working their way into genetically modifying even the sweet corn that people eat. And he says, buyers beware and do your diligence, which means always be on alert, be on the watch about that. And his final comments down here, which I found, you know, like I said, I don't know what a paleo diet is. To me, it sounds very foreign and weird, but I will do some research into it. But he says that when you have food allergies, it's the best diet to be on. So we'll see about that. But he says, unfortunately, allergies are common, and with the manipulation of our food supply, they will continue to become even more prevalent. If you wish to protect yourself and your family's immune systems, avoiding the common food allergens like corn, wheat, or soy should be a strong consideration. While I have highlighted the implications surrounding genetic modification, this is only one aspect of corn and other grains that contribute to its high allergenicity. If you are serious about getting rid of your allergies and all associated side effects, making a dietary lifestyle change is a must. And there is no better place to start than the paleo diet. So he is an allergist who is taking this corn allergy and other food allergies very, very seriously and sharing with others as what is going on there. So I'm going to end my video here, and I will put these two links down in the description so you can look them over, and then I will be back with part 2 and go over the rest of the information that I have found, trying to get answers to the question, why are they not considering it being a major allergen? You know, it just amazes me. You type it in and you come up with what I told you at the very beginning. Why don't they recognize it? Because it's not highly allergenic allergen. Now that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And when I share the other information with you, you're going to be shocked. So see you in part 2, guys.